Welcome back to the party, everybody. My name's Jaren, and I'm a film critic straight out of Gen Z. While my experience may be limited, my willingness to learn more is sky high. So if you want to follow along on my journey through the ups and downs of the film industry, consider hitting that subscribe button and turn on the bell notification to get notified every time my brain grows just a little bit larger. It's gonna take a while. It's time to enter the Director Project, a monthly collaboration where a ton of fellow creators come together to tackle a single director in their work. This month is Nora Ephron. I'm actually breaking the norm a little bit here because I can't talk about Nora Ephron without mentioning When Harry Met Sally. Yes, I know, she wrote it, she didn't direct it, but you know what? I was given a chance and I'm just going to run with it, whatever opportunity I can get. I'm going to break the rules just a little bit, but hey, it's okay. I'm still somewhat in the boundaries, right? But with all that being said, let's just dive into this. The romantic comedy genre is undoubtedly one of the most repetitive forms of story structure we see today. Almost every time I see a film of this nature, I can immediately guess every story beat and outcome before the title card even appears. Man meets woman, man and woman hate each other, man and woman go their separate ways until something mutual occurs to have them meet once again, where we then see the relationship blossom, eventually leading to them falling in love. Sure, it can be charming at times, but I also can't say I've ever sat down to view a romantic comedy for the story. It's almost entirely because of the cast involved that I even give it a chance. Drive Me Crazy, Made Manhattan, 10 Things I Hate About You, yada yada yada. Sadly, that's just how it is. It wasn't until a friend of mine recommended a film directed by the same guy who made Stand By Me, Rob Reiner, signed me up, that for once when watching I was absolutely blown away, and that film was When Harry Met Sally. Quickly, I was swept up in two charming and quirky characters and a story unlike any I've ever seen. It takes the entire layout of the rom-com format I mentioned earlier and completely just rips it to shreds. It's incredibly realistic, charming, yet even dissatisfying at times just because of its unorthodox perspective, showing us a more believable outcome of how true love sparks, all coming together to make it the greatest addition to this ultimately overstuffed genre we've ever seen. Starting it all off with 1977, we see a man and a woman come together from mutual friends after college graduation on a road trip to New York to start their professional lives, stuck in a car for hours, and the conclusion is made that they are polar opposites. They disagree on almost everything. They have completely different outlooks on the roles a man and a woman can share, the possibilities of friendship, and the lives each other hope to make for themselves. And in the end, there's no redemption, no reconciliation. The only progress they have made is understanding just how appalled they are by the sight of each other, and in the end, they just part their separate ways. Now, often we would see that sequence in the beginning of the film stretched out and formatted to the entire runtime of, let's say, every Hallmark movie ever. Except, of course, a happy ending is what sells, so it'd be written to put Meg Ryan in another relationship with an egotistical rich man who doesn't value her worth until Billy Crystal travels far and wide to reconnect and confess his love for her. The end. I hate to break it to you, but that's just not realistic. Nora Ephron, the screenwriter of When Harry Met Sally, understood that when mapping out this story, as she does with every single other one of her films we've come to love, she understands the beauty in reality, the complicated nature of human interactions, stubbornness, and truly just the incompatibility of some people. Early on, there's a hopelessness between Harry and Sally, and they accept that. For us as the audience, it's easy to want more, but we can also identify the unlikelihood of their togetherness. Ultimately, in the stage we find our characters, it would have been insufferable to continue down the same path. Then comes 1982. We meet back up with the characters of Harry and Sally 5 years later on an airplane. They spend time thinking back to that long road trip in 1977, going over what's happened in their life since, both in dedicated relationships with careers they had gone to school for, and still, no spark. There's a tension there that remained from their first encounter, but yet absolutely no connection whatsoever. It's a long, awkward, drawn-out sequence of two characters wishing they could be anywhere else but in that moment until the two land from their flight and say goodbye once again. Yet another example of the story being set up in a way that could easily go the direction of genre cliches, only to remind us that no, this is not that type of movie. It's not stereotypical. From the beginning, it sets up the theme that just because a man and a woman come into contact with each other doesn't always mean there will be a relationship that follows. Nora Ephron has been incredibly vocal about the different wavelengths men and women follow, how each of them perceive the opposite sex, and the intentions of their connections going forward. Nora Ephron explained in an interview with Entertainment Weekly in 2012.
The truth is that men don't want to be friends with women. Men know they don't understand women and they don't much care. They want women as lovers, as wives, as mothers, but they're really not interested in them as friends. They have friends. Men are their friends. And they talk to their male friends about sports, and I have no idea what else. Women, on the other hand, are dying to be friends with men. They know they don't understand men, and it bothers them. They think if only they could be friends with them, they would understand them, and what's more, and this is their gravest mistake, it would help. Women think if they could just understand men, they could do something. Women are always trying to do something. There are entire industries based on this premise, the most obvious one being the women's magazines, that are based completely on the notion that women can do something where men are concerned. Cook a perfect steak, or wear a perfect skirt, or dab a little perfume behind the knee.
Because of these two completely different insights, oftentimes it ends right where it started. Hence why 2 times now, the 2 main leads come together only to separate again. I think it's perfectly explained the angle Ephron was trying to play on in her script with this scene.
What I'm saying is, and this is not a come on in any way, shape, or form, is that men and women can't be friends because the sex part always gets in the way.
That's not true. I have a number of men friends and there is no sex involved.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
You only think you do.
You're saying I'm having sex with these men without my knowledge?
No, what I'm saying is they all want to have sex with you.
But 1987 is the true meat and potatoes of the entire narrative. We find Harry and Sally 5 years later yet again in a bookshop. We're brought into the moment by Sally talking with her best friend about her love life being in shambles, finding out she broke up with the man we saw 5 years prior because he wasn't ready to commit to marriage, and across the row, Harry happens to be standing there waiting for her to notice him. Of course, after the 2 previous encounters, the immediate expectation is for them to exchange a few words and part yet again, but our expectations are subverted. Through conversation, we learn Harry is also having relationship trouble, now getting divorced, and for the first time they share a commonality, a similar outlook on life and relationships, and how they're just plain exhausted with them. They are finally at a time in their life where they can understand each other, and going against Harry's previous stance of relationship between a man and a woman, their friendship sparks. Like they always say, third time's a charm, right? Quite frankly, it's beautiful. The ideal bond anyone could wish to have. They go on walks in the park, talk on the phone all hours of the night, even having movie nights over landline, give each other relationship advice, help decorate their apartments. The most generic stuff, but together. An unbreakable bond forms in a care unlike ever before, with the absence of sexual relations or the need to give any exclusive term. Best friends. This is a process not shown often in film, and it's very refreshing to see characters written in a way that feels natural. Nora Ephron understood when writing that in a relationship, there's no realistic approach where you can jump from A to Z. You have to take it one step at a time. Another year goes by, they've still remained incredibly close friends, but as season change, we see subtle changes in their view of each other as well. Most importantly, New Year's Eve, 87. Enjoying the single life but the company of each other, Harry and Sally go to a New Year's Eve party with their friends, surrounded by lovers, optimistic about the year to come, and talking to those who will approach them, only very quickly to find out they share nothing in common with anyone there. When linking back up, they find solidarity in a dance hand in hand, enjoying each other's embrace, but unlike before, they realize the feelings they truly have for each other. The way the scene is directed was incredibly well executed by Reiner. As they're in each other's arms, slowly turning, we see the expressions on Harry's face when he realizes the comfort but uncertainty. Then when Sally's in frame, the same occurs. They felt it at the same time, but in unison decided their friendship is so strong, there's nothing they want to stand in the way of that. There's a fear of resentment if they were to be in a relationship and something went wrong. Entirely through 1988, it's internal struggle with themselves. There's absolutely zero subplot or barrier that's stopping them from being together, just them and the awareness of their past, along with the hesitation to just go for it. Now as the audience watches the two interact, all signs point to the fact that they're perfect for one another. They share the same interests, have a quirkiness that only each other can understand, and even their differences balance each other out for the perfect compromise. But they just make excuses. It's kind of annoying at times because it'd be so much easier for them to get together, but then I think back to all the times that I would see a girl across the room and want to go talk to her, but then when I approach her, I end up talking about the way her laces don't match the color of her shoes. I don't know, but all I'm saying is it's pretty relatable. It's not that they're certain the relationship would fail or that they're not meant for each other, but more so the uncertainty in themselves and being afraid of not being able to contribute enough for a healthy belonging. The only relationships they've ever had in the past have failed. They don't want another failed attempt at love. But the way the film is formatted, we see them together, apart, and even together with other people, and it's written all of their faces the jealousy that's overtaking and the confidence that their partner isn't right for them. They know each other inside and out, while their dates don't even seem to know their favorite food. Heck, in the midst of them whining about the possibilities of finding love, their two best friends start dating and eventually get married. It's that easy. It's incredibly obvious that they are happier when they're with each other. They know it, we know it, but when that emotion is built up so much over time, sadly, it comes out for the first time in the worst way. In the midst of embracing Sally in her saddest state, Harry ends up doing the exact thing he always promised himself he wouldn't do. He gave in and slept with Sally, but felt so wrong about it after he left and distanced himself when Sally needed him most. He'd explained earlier in the film, during the iconic dinner scene, that he had the tendency to hook up with girls he had no emotional connection with, only to calculate the best time to run off after without ever giving a second thought. He now did it to the one he cared about most, not because he felt nothing, but because he felt everything. Sally is broken. She feels used. Harry's upset too, mainly at himself for how he executed things knowing he loves her but unwilling to commit, and because of this, they separate once more and live their lives apart. Seasons change, and they're alone. Again, subverting all the cliches of the genre, we're uncertain if there will be a Harry and Sally by the end, or if it will just be Harry and Sally. But through incredibly clever writing, we see time go by, but with less ease than before. Calling back to the Christmas before when Harry helped Sally carry a tree to her apartment, now Sally struggles to drag it up the street. What once before was long hours of phone calls is now a one-way conversation Harry has with Sally's answering machine. The karaoke duets are now a solo act, and even when finally reaching Sally, Harry is pushed away by her in prevention of being seen as someone who needs pity after asking her to go with him to the New Year's Eve party. But that night, Sally goes with her friends and Harry wallows in self-pity. She again spends her time talking to random guys she has no interest in, while Harry remembers all of the good times, the early moments when they hated each other, the blossoming friendship, and the moment he realized he was truly in love. They start to miss each other's company more than ever before, and Harry in that moment realizes his happiest moments are spent with her and can't imagine a life without her by his side. That's all it took, that one realization. I love the visualization of the moment the emotions reach an all-time high as Sally is exiting the party and Harry goes from walking to sprinting to the party until they come together and Harry finally confesses his love. He finally realizes that the only way to know the possibilities of their future is to go for it, and Sally knows too. I've never felt so amped, so energetic to see two fictional characters kiss, but it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders, an investment that finally paid off. The naturality of the whole arc begged for the investment of their relationship, and truthfully the care of each other individually, and knowing that the only ones for each other were them, made it so satisfying to see them finally speak it into existence. While this ultimately was a beautiful collaboration universally, the approach from Reiner in the director's chair, the charm and charisma of Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal, the true mastermind was Nora Ephron. She knew the importance of telling a real portrayal of human interaction, acknowledging the societal norms and what has become normal within the romantic comedy genre, and going against the grain, creating a story of the journey to reach love in a way that reassured myself and many who admire the film that love takes time, and what we see in the movie shouldn't be the expectation, but instead to find joy in the little things.
3 months later, we got married.
It only took 3 months.
12 years and 3 months.
We had a really wonderful wedding.
It really was a
It was great.
beautiful
We had
wedding.
this enormous coconut cake.
Huge coconut cake with the tears, and there was this very rich chocolate sauce on the side.
Right, because not everybody likes it on the cake because it makes it very soggy.
Particularly the coconut soaks up a lot of that stuff, so it's important to keep it on the side.
Right.
It had to be you. It had to be you. I wandered around and finally found the somebody who could make me be true.